Okay guys, I just want to make a quick video on troubleshooting some receptacles or electrical outlets. Now we've already got all these fixed. I should have made a video, I guess, as we were going, but after we did get it done, I just thought it would be some good stuff to know if you didn't already. This is the tester that I use. Same thing I think home inspectors use. It's very handy. It's got all these different signals that it'll give you and kind of tell you if certain things are wrong. But the biggest thing about it is you don't have to, get some kind of a clock or a lamp and walk around the house plugging it in. It just helps you know if there's power on the receptacle. The inspector had come in on this house and noted 5 different receptacles that were wrong or not working. What was wrong with this one is the bottom plug was working, but the top one was not. Now, again, these are all fixed. From my limited experience, I've never seen a receptacle where the bottom was good and the top was bad, that I didn't just have to change the whole receptacle. But we took this out to check to make sure there's no loose wires anywhere. There were not, so we replaced the receptacle and it worked just fine. And moving on, there's a receptacle going up this stairwell that the inspector said was bad. Right in that little nook right there. I guess this is for like pictures or something like that, just for kind of decorations. Now, I don't know if this would go, maybe it will go all the way in. I thought Connor had it all the way in there. But anyway, that tester won't go all the way in. But we pulled this one out of the wall, and I think Connor already had this one out of the wall, and I had mentioned to him, and the only reason I knew, and he didn't think about it at the time, was that 2 weeks ago, I had this same issue. Anytime there was a receptacle in a funny spot like this one is, and even in a bedroom, sometimes they'll be like that. Look around for a light switch. See those switches? We tried those switches, and then it didn't give it any power. But we did look down at the bottom of these stairs, and there's 3 switches down here. So came down here, and sure enough, this switch works that receptacle up there. You'll go crazy looking for that power source if you didn't know to look for a light switch. So check stuff like that. Check around for a light switch. Now see, the home inspector came in here and told him that receptacle was no good. So he didn't even notice that. But this switch makes that receptacle turn on and off. So that took care of the second one. There's 3 more up here. Step right over here and look at those. In this room, let's see if I can get some lights to come on. In this room, it was that receptacle. It was just that receptacle. So when I first came to this house to do an estimate for it, my first thoughts were, I bet it's a light switch, but this time it was not. And while I'm at it, one other thing to think about, see how all these receptacles have the ground plug on the bottom? If you ever go in a house and you look around and you see one receptacle that's upside down compared to all the other ones, 9 times out of 10, it's on a light switch. See, they're all down. Now, this one's down also, and it was not on the light switch. We didn't have any power when we plugged the tester in. Nothing ever came on. So what we did do, oh, I do want to point this part out. So you see that one is right under that window. It had no power on it. In this bonus room, all the way over there, that's the only one that did not have power up here. And then the same thing for that one. So the one thing in common on all these is are right up under a window. So that was just kind of curious that those 3 were not working. So anyway, none of them were on a light switch, so we eliminated that. There's just no light switch to check. So in order to try to get the power off of this, before we took it out of the wall, we took our tester and stuck it over here. And of course it did have power. So we found the breaker, cut it off, pulled this out. Well, it still had power on it. We noticed it still had some electricity going to it. So that kind of told us that that breaker that controls this one does not control this one. And as Connor was working on this receptacle, he found a loose wire back there and got it back on, plugged the tester in, and it had power. And we both kind of thought that, one of us said, I bet those other ones are working right now. So sure enough, walked into the other two rooms, it was on, and that third one was on. So apparently this one had a loose wire, got that right, and it was feeding those other three. For some reason, those are on a circuit by themselves. So those three were all working together. So that corrected that problem. And that actually took care of all five, or, we'd already fixed two, that got the other three. So that took care of the receptacle problems at this house. I guess I'll put the camera on myself since there's nothing else. Nothing else to, here, I'm looking in the mirror to make sure it's on my big old head. Another thing that you might come across on receptacles, 2 weeks ago I was at a house. Most receptacles will feed into the next receptacle. So if, let's say, here, I'm gonna turn it back around. Let's just say, for instance, this receptacle is dead, but this one has power. You could open that one up and see that the feed wire is hooked up, but the wires that come off of it going to the next receptacle might be loose. If they're loose, that receptacle will work, but that one will not. So in order to get this one to work, you would have had to have fix the loose wire coming off of that one. It could be off the screw on the back. It could have, some people stick them in the back of the receptacles. So that could be your problem. I've had that happen. I'm trying to think of other things. A GFI receptacle. There could be a GFI somewhere. I know mine at home, there's a GFI on one wall that pretty much feeds the whole bathroom. So if a receptacle my wife called me one day and said, we don't have power on a receptacle in the bathroom and the lights are out and it's all, the whole bathroom's dead. All she had to do was come around the other side, reset the GFI, and I'm assuming everybody knows what a GFI is. There should be one in this bathroom. Maybe not. I think it has a GFI breaker. But anyway, she had to reset the GFI receptacle and it lit everything else up. So a lot of times you'll see that in the kitchen or a bathroom or even a garage. If there's a GFI, let's say this was a GFI receptacle, it could be feeding every one of these receptacles, and if that GFI was tripped, it'd kill them all. And also, as a side note, if you put a GFI receptacle there and it's feeding all of these, technically these could be considered GFCIs too. I think it's the way it works because they are being fed off of a GFI. So anyway, check for a nearby GFI receptacle to see if it's tripped, to see if maybe that's what's killed the power. Now I went to a house again 2 weeks ago, had a dead receptacle, took it out of the wall, and the wires were just not hooked up. They were just wire nutted behind the wall. I don't know why that was the case. So again, back on me. So that's some things to think about. Check for light switches. That is the easiest way to fix them, and it's also the most nerve-wracking, or it will drive you crazy looking for it, because I just did it 2 weeks ago. I had 4 receptacles out of the wall. I looked for a light switch, couldn't find one. Had 4 different receptacles out of the wall, couldn't find a loose wire. Checked all I could check, and I just about was ready to give up. And I looked down the wall, and there was a light switch by the fireplace, way over out of the way. I don't know why it was controlling that receptacle. Usually it's in the doorway, just so you can turn the light switch on and turn a lamp on that will feed off of that receptacle. But anyway, look for light switches. If that's not the case, if you've got one of these testers, it might tell you what's wrong. It's time to cut the breaker off, pull the receptacle out of the wall, and start looking for loose wires. If there's no loose wires there, or probably should look for the GFI as your second line of measure or what to do. So I'm gonna back up. Check for a light switch, check for a GFI. That's the 2 easiest things to do. Takes no time to reset them. Third thing is it's time to pull the receptacle out of the wall, start looking for loose wires. Fourth thing is look at the receptacle close by, one to the left or one to the right, and see if it's got a loose wire in there. Other than that, I'm sure you would have already checked your breakers, but a breaker usually will kill, you know, up to 10 receptacles, depends on how many on there. And I guess it's worth noting too, I don't do a lot of electrical work. I'm not a licensed electrician, but I can pull a receptacle out of the wall and look at it and fix it and put it back. I'm not adding any kind of new wiring. I'm not, I think what the rule is that I can repair and replace, and that's repairing. I can reset breakers, I can reset a GFI. So if anybody wants to make a comment about me not being a licensed electrician, it's gonna go one ear and out the other, because I don't really want to hear it. My dad was he's 66 years old. He's been an electrician since he was 20 years old. Me and him wired my house. I know the basics. I'm not breaking any laws, but I know how to do what I know how to do. So that's all of that. I hope this was helpful. I think it's good information. I wish somebody had told me a long time ago some of this stuff. My dad has told me a lot of this stuff, but you forget, and you can really start really digging into a problem when all you had to do was flip a light switch or a GFI. So that's it. See you next time.